pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. The roll call, please.
Counselor Eater.
Here.
Counselor Astorga.
Here.
Counselor Donahue is absent. Counselor Ott.
Here.
Counselor Hooker.
Here.
Counselor Bow.
Here.
Mayor Wall.
Here. Okay. Moving right along, we do have some correspondence, and there's a letter in your packet requesting additional benches on College and Church Street. And do we know who wrote this letter?
I do not. It came to me like that with no information. She did call me, wanted to just speak with me and hopefully get it done, but I told her that would be something, she could come talk to council about or write a letter, or gave her the options, and she wrote a letter, but with no contact information.
Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions about this letter?
Kind of did, yeah. Cause I get the benches, they're super fantastic during Oktoberfest. But is she meaning like where the Y is? So like very specifically like in that church grass part or on the other side? Because it also says trees. That's the only place I can think of that doesn't have trees along the siding. So I wasn't sure what the trees and the bench, how that went together, but if you don't know.
Well, when I spoke to her on the phone, she did mention she would like to see them up East Church to East College and up towards the Acme, because a lot of people walk that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the older crowd, she said that she would appreciate more places to stop and sit on her evening journey. Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would encourage a lot more older folks if they could stop along the way. I don't know where the benches would go though, because it's people's properties, yeah.
So they could go potentially in the right way, in the city right way. But yeah, if they were on, so headed up the Abbey, if they were on the south side, it would definitely be on people's private property. It would be private property just on the south side of the sidewalk. But between south side of the sidewalk and the street
Yeah,
is basically city right away.
okay,
So it could go in a parking strip perhaps. I would hasten to give up the sidewalk room.
so I was thinking there's also stretches where people actually park in that places, but we have that conversation too. Okay. I think it's a good idea, then. For sure.
Any other questions or comments? No? Let's move on then to presentations, guests, and announcements.
Yes. Where am I here? There I am. Kelly Weeks, Marion County. Go ahead and join me, share my screen now.
Yeah, that'd be
You're more than welcome to come up and,
Sure, I can come up to the empty spot.
or the podium up here if you're.
Oh, okay.
with that.
Either way works for me.
So are you Kelly?
I'm Kelly. yes.
Kelly, okay. This is Kelly Weiss from Marion County. And she has a presentation for us, so.
Thank you. Thank you so much for adding me to your agenda and taking the time. I'm here to talk about an upcoming project that Marion County Economic Development Program is working on. We are updating our strategic plan for our program. So this will determine how we utilize our resources, both staff time as well as our funding over the next 5 years. So I've been reaching out to each of our 20 cities to get feedback on how we move forward and what your thoughts are. So I can go ahead and kind of walk through a PowerPoint presentation, kind of talking about what we currently do, and then get some feedback from you on what we could be potentially adding on or changing in the future. All right, now we're rolling.
I get this out of your way.
Yeah,
That's
that's about.
I really don't know. This computer's been a little glitchy tonight. There we go.
Okay,
There we go.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. All good. Okay. So our economic development program works to promote efforts that support economic development in Marion County. So oftentimes what people consider economic development is anything like bringing in a big new business with a ton of new jobs, which is obviously a chunk of economic development, but it's not necessarily the whole picture, or at least how we can potentially utilize the dollars. So it can be really anything that helps grow the economy in Marion County. So that could also mean community development projects, things that provide additional quality of life for residents, anything that helps support workforce. Those are all things that can be economic development. The next slide. So our funding comes from video lottery proceeds. So 2.5% of all video lottery sales in Oregon goes to Oregon's counties. And Marion County's portion of that gets channeled through our economic development program. And we are required to spend it on items that support growing the economy, but that can mean in quite a bit of different things. Just like I was talking about before, anything that promotes new jobs or retains jobs, anything that improves quality of life, or anything that supports education as well. So it's a pretty big breadth of opportunities. We anticipate 2.2 million in lottery revenue this current fiscal year, and that's been pretty steady over the last 5 years. So that's about the amount that we're talking about here. It's not anything to sneeze at by any shape, but it's not big capital dollars either necessarily for all of our 20 cities. But it gives us a good starting point. And we work really hard to leverage those dollars with other grant opportunities so that we were able to bring even more funding to Marion County. So right now, I hate to even talk about it because it's so off, but right now we have 19 million in grant revenue running through our economic development program. And a good chunk of that is for funding up in the canyon for wildfire recovery. So it's a very off year, but we do work really hard to leverage our video lottery dollars to add in additional revenue for the county. Then go ahead. All right, so this slide is a lot of very pretty colors kind of talking about what we currently do in our program. We have 3 different areas of focus. One is lottery distribution, which is basically getting the money in and getting it out to our communities as quickly and as easily as possible. The one that our communities know most about is Community Prosperity Initiative. So this is an intergovernmental agreement we have with each of our cities where $15,000 a year goes towards whatever is important to you for your economic development efforts. And those agreements expire in June of 2024. So this is a good chance to hear from our communities how that's working, if it's been useful for you, ways we could potentially improve those types of things. We also have a grant program called the Emerging Economic Opportunity Program, which is basically a grant program to help with projects that are really timely. Potentially they're going to lose grant funding or something if they don't have some gap dollars. So it's a way to kind of fill some holes and make some projects happen. But our 2 big focuses are business and workforce and infrastructure and economic investment. So business and workforce, we work really closely with SEDCOR and help partner and fund them. So SEDCOR is the Strategic Economic Development Corporation, and we have a business retention and expansion manager, Nick Harville, who is funded through some of these dollars. We also have a grant program with Willamette Workforce Partnership called Youth Wage Grant, where businesses can receive $5 an hour to offset the cost of hiring youth in their first job. So youth between 14 and 17, because we recognize how very much of a time commitment it is for businesses to hire those youth and get them trained up. And we want to make sure there's an incentive to do so. Then we have a grant program we just established with our chambers to support them, is very similarly to Community Prosperity Initiative with the cities, where they can apply for up to $10,000 a year in funding to support their initiatives. And then we have a grant program with Salem Community Investment Fund and United Way to support some of their housing efforts. And then we've been working on some canyon projects to do the business forgivable loans up in the canyon, help them have some new businesses as they redevelop up there. But a big bulk of what we've been doing is in the infrastructure and economic investments, this pink side. So this is a lot of our efforts supporting wildfire recovery, but the first one on there is tourism. Historically, we've been supporting Travel Salem with lottery dollars, as well as supporting the Oregon Garden as they develop as a destination. Then pretty much everything else kind of lands in the canyon, the recovery. So supporting the North Sandium Sewer Authority, which is the government organization for canyon communities created to organize around creating sewer up there. The Detroit Marinas Excavation and Resiliency Project is a project where we'll be excavating underneath the 2 marinas at Detroit Lake to allow them to operate at a lower lake level, thus extending their season, which is a huge driver for their economy. And then a chunk of the dollars that we receive grant funding wise is the Opal Creek Promise funding. So back in 1996, when the Opal Creek Wilderness was created and the revenue from logging was taken away from those communities, the federal government said to offset those loss of revenues, they would provide the canyon communities $15 million in funding. In 96, they never did that. And we've been working really hard for 30 years to get those dollars. And we've finally been able to achieve that, at least beginningly. So we applied for a grant and have received the 15 million that we'll have to get through Business Oregon. And you guys know government bureaucracy, but it's a lot farther along than it was before. So we're super excited about it. And then we've been supporting this communities of Detroit and Gates in some downtown planning work as they redevelop after the fire. So a lot of wildfire recovery, which I know doesn't really pertain to what you guys do, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that that's a lot of what we've been focusing on over the last few years. But I mean, enough about what we've been doing. What I'm really here today is to talk about what we could be potentially doing in the future. So if you go to the next slide, I'll show you our timeline. So we're working on updating our strategy, which is basically for the next 5 fiscal years, how we intend to utilize our resources, lottery dollars, as well as staff time to be able to support initiatives. And I want to hear from each of our communities what's working with our relationship, what could be potentially changed, improved, those sorts of things. So we're just in the community outreach process right now. Now through the beginning of November, I'll be going to each of the cities and they're just their staff or their city council and get some feedback. Then we'll draft up a strategy that'll go out to the community so you can check it out and see if we hit the nail on the head or we totally missed the mark or whatever the case may be. And then once we get that feedback, we'll go to the Board of Commissioners for their consideration and approval. So I know it's really hard to provide information and feedback on the dais, so I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that there's a survey out there. You're welcome to complete the survey. I would love it if you, either as individual city councilors or the city as a whole, either way works for me, could go to the survey, the local government survey, and complete that and let me know what is the projects that are super important to your community, how we could potentially partner, those sorts of things. And then anyone who's out in the public, there's also a public survey as well. You're more than welcome to go there and let us know what we could be working on in the future. I've got some flyers up here, so you don't have to write any of this down. Feel free to take this home. You can complete the survey every year. And the surveys are due on November 17th, so you got a little bit of time. That's pretty much it. I'm open to any questions.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Had some random thoughts that popped in my head while she was.
I'll take thoughts.
So random, I'm not gonna call these priorities, these are, literally random thoughts. That kind of came into my head, but I noticed on one of these, you had like a youth wage grant, and made me start thinking forward a little bit. One of the things that we're multiple outlets in town are pushing is a lot of the career technical education programs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Alan could use them, but it seems to only make sense to like partner up and try to get like a summer intern or a couple summer interns, take on some of these projects. You know, I'm thinking like painting, like minor tasks, you know, kind of where they can tag along, learn something, do something, earn a wage. That was one of the thoughts that popped in my head. One other thing that popped in my head is I don't know how many times a day I see stuff pop up on social media from locals just saying, hey, I'm looking for work, is anybody hiring? And I know that there's the Indeed, all those other things, stuff like that. But if there was an outlet that provided like free local job listings or something that everybody could direct a lot of these local I'm just gonna say 16 to 26-year-old is usually the demographic I see all the time. And they're always just randomly shooting it out on social media, looking for work. So I don't know if there's any way to help connect those people. And then one of the other things too is I've got down here next Friday's night out, National Night Out. And then obviously I saw a tour for Travel Salem, Oregon Garden. We have Discover Mount Angel now.
Yeah,
Some of those things. Anyways, those are my random thoughts that came to my brain.
do you have I would love a contact info for Discover Mount Angel, that'd be great,
We can provide that.
thank you.
On top of what Counselor Fowl just said, I was wondering, do you guys pump in money towards like CTE trade jobs development for the county, as far as like participating with high schools to fund certain things in the schools to push trades?
Yeah. We've been working with SEDCOR on some of those projects, Nick Harlow in particular, and I wish I would have done my remembering, but I feel like it was Mount Angel's welding room. Yes, we did. I'm sorry to not remember. We did provide funding to support the welding room expansion. That's been the only one this past year, but we have historically done quite a bit of support for the schools. Right at hand, but
I was just gonna say, because I know within the district with through donations and other private funding, started with obviously all the machinery in the welding room. I've been on a big push for 3D printers in all the schools, that kind of stuff. But yeah, if there was an opportunity just to help support the ongoing, because obviously every one of those requires a lot of material, and most of the time we're stuck relying on what we can get donated.
yeah.
So if there was any money to help with the CTE programs, I think is kind of what Tony, is that what you're getting at, is even just like help with machinery and materials?
Yeah, material, but also just resourcing, or networking with schools and unions and different trade unions as well, like IBEW, AFSCME, iron workers, etc., just to get the how do I say it? Get the information out there to the schools and to the public that they're hiring, because there's going to be a massive shortage of trade union workers.
Teach high school students what a steam fitter is.
Any other questions or random thoughts?
Thank you. I do appreciate all the random thoughts.
I have some random thoughts. First of all, you, on one of your slides, you had broadband at the bottom and you didn't say a word about
You're right,
broadband.
I didn't. I
Could you-
glazed over it, it shouldn't have.
That's a big deal. The state has a lot of money now for broadband, and how is that working through your program?
Yeah, we have been working on supporting our internet service providers through public-private partnerships, and generally what our philosophy has been. Marion County decided long before my time that they would not be competing with the ISPs, they would be supporting them. So we've done, we call them public-private partnerships, but basically funding about half of the capital improvement to support bringing in fiber to most of the agricultural areas as well as up in the canyon. So the one that we did last year was with Data Vision to support their development on Powell Prairie Road, an extension out there. So they connected about 7 farms and like 20 houses in that region. And we could potentially do that again, but you're absolutely right. There's a ton of funding coming down from the federal government through the Infrastructure Investment Act, through to Business Oregon and their broadband office, and out to the ISPs. So we're kind of holding off and waiting to see what the requirements of that new program are going to be, if there's going to be a big match, something like that, where we could help potentially support that matching dollars. And then just trying to help our rural ISPs and make sure that they're able to get access to those dollars. But it's hard because the Business Oregon hasn't released what that's going to look like yet. So hard to make a plan for what we're gonna do, and I don't know what the requirements are gonna be, but.
Okay, another question. The youth wage grant. Tonight's the first time I've heard about that. And also, I was president of the local chamber for several years. I heard about the $10,000 grants to chambers. So
Yeah.
what is your outreach to the communities to get the word out that those things are available? I'm not sure that, I have friends who have small businesses. I'm not sure they're aware of that. So
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Well, we've been having quarterly meetings with our chambers, but I'm gonna, full disclosure, have a hard time finding a connection for the Mount Angel Chamber. I think you guys had some turnover really recently or something where our staff. I don't know, you guys obviously know your chamber better than I do, but if you have a contact for your chamber, I would love to have it, because we've been trying to connect.
Why don't you put me down?
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
I'll make sure they're aware of things.
No, that's why these meetings have been really helpful, at least for me, is because I don't necessarily have all the connections, so I really appreciate the feedback.
I mean, they sound like really good programs, and I think that as long as people know about them, they could go further in the county, so,
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
okay. That's all my, anyone else? No? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It'll be really uncouth if I time out.
No,
No.
Thank you.
we don't pay overtime.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, we have, one more presentation, actually, that didn't make it to the agenda, but, we have the best recap here tonight.
Oh,
I'll stand up, introduce myself. Yeah, I'll get set up here.
I know you.
All right, hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Bill Bischoff, my name is Oktoberfest. I don't have a PowerPoint for you, so I apologize. But I did want to come here tonight and just thank the city, thank you all for a great festival. This year, we had another record-like year, similar to 2022. Apparently, people were still very willing to come out and join us and partake in our festival. So we had 4 great days of weather, and I'm not gonna lie, I would have liked it if it wasn't so hot, but I'm not gonna curse that because rain kills it. But overall, it was a great year. I mean, we're still paying bills, just like I'm sure you guys are too, but we had a show here this year that was kind of additional to the festival from years past with Travel Oregon and Travel Oregon and partnership with oh gosh.
North American County Travel and
Yeah.
Tourism.
There you go. Yeah. And so we're gonna probably change that up a little bit next year. Just, first year had some bumps in the road, but it was overall, there was about 1,500 people that probably came to the festival using that, and it was a great success. And so I think they'll change up a few things to kind of fine tune the hiccups that had, but overall it was great. Throughout the weekend, there's always little headaches here and there, but I think we've always had a good working relationship with Mark and his team, and looking forward to planning for next year. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Nate?
He even spoke at Oktoberfest, I mean,
Wasn't that a great speech?
yeah, I took half my coffee joints.
Yeah, but no, you took half of mine. We need to coordinate in the future. What are you gonna say? Hey, any other questions, comments? No? Thank you, Bill.
All right, well, thank you all, have a great night.
Thank you. That it?
That's it
Okay.
for presentations.
Okay, let's move right along to item number 7A.
Mr. Mayor, I do have somebody here who wants to speak for presentation or appearance of interest in citizen.
Oh.
Number 6,
Okay, then.
Mr. Hoover.
All members of the city council and city manager Daniel, thank you for letting me speak for a moment today. My comments are based on the last city council agenda and minutes. My comments are premature. I'd like to hear today's discussion, but I'm going to base them on what I read from last month. I read that you want to change the code of Mount Angel based on 2 places. I feel that you need to look at the cultural differences between people in Mount Angel. Some people live with 10 or 15 people based on their culture, one home. They have more than one car. You need to look at the older homes that have limited driveways. We have unimproved streets and unimproved sidewalks where these people live in their cars when we don't have the improvements that we need. These improvements are expensive. Cement is expensive. Councilor Hofer there knows how much it costs to build something. I'm trying to build something, and it costs a lot of money. We have people that we should be looking out for rather than penalizing. We should not be making rules based on one person here, one person there, 3 people over there. What we should rather do is rather than create an ordinance, we should work with the individual. Help them, understand their culture, help them correct the situation. Why build more laws on top of more laws? Why not work with people? Why not understand their culture? I'd ask you, as you discuss this today, to understand that community needs to create solutions that respect the people, that respect their culture, that help people and respect their social and economic disparities in this community. This goes to how many cars in a driveway. If you have a new house, you might have a large driveway. If you have an older house, because that's all you can afford. You have a culture of having a large family unit, where you're going to put your cars. Let's make a law, tell them they can't do it. That's not a solution, that's a law. Why don't we work with people individually, respecting them and respecting their culture, respecting the poor, respecting them. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Victor. I just want to, this is a very preliminary discussion that we're in.
I'm sorry?
This is a very preliminary discussion that we're in. We haven't passed any laws. We may, because it is an issue, but it's very preliminary right now.
I need to show the city manager 2 minutes, 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I realize it's just discussion, but I want to get ahead of the discussion rather than behind it.
Thank you. Okay. Now, We will move on to item 7A. Payment approval report for September 2023. Well. So I'll start with Councilor Ofer. Do you have any questions? Councilor Fowl?
I do not.
Okay, Councilor Ott?
On page 10, what are Baker and Taylor books?
I couldn't hear you.
On page 10, what are Baker and Taylor books? It's like new books, new books, new books, new books.
It's a Baker and Taylor is a vendor
Oh, okay,
that she buys a lot of her new books from.
for the library? Oh, okay.
Yeah, almost all of the books are from there.
Wasn't any,
Huh?
like, I wasn't sure if it was like, I don't know. For the police department, for the library, what the new books were.
No, it's a vendor she uses all the time.
I've always wanted to ask, and then it's like, I should just.
But she does buy books in Amazon, she buys books.
Oh, yeah,
When she's at Costco, she'll pick up but this is her, I think her main.
yeah,
source.
the main. She does. The other question I already asked Tara. You were marked as LOC conference, but I wasn't. But she already clarified that for me. So that's the only thing, that was the only thing I had.
Oh. I still didn't, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, that I had asked Tara before the meeting. It says that you're registered for the conference,
Yeah,
but I wasn't listed there because I am going. So I was just making sure
oh,
that
okay.
I was on there
All right,
too.
gotcha. Okay. Council President
I am good.
is good. And I am pretty good, but, could you please, the repair for 19,000 on the vac truck, what all did that entail? I saw a little bit of it in your other report, but
So on the debris tank, there's a box. So when you lift the debris tank up to dump it, it detaches from the vac system. So, and then when it comes back down, it reattaches. So that box up there was corroded out and you could actually see daylight through it. So that needed to get refabricated. And that's what cost us. It wasn't backing. And so we took it into own equipment. And that's what they had to do to repair
okay. And that's gonna last us for a year, I hope.
it. That piece.
Okay, good.
That's part of the trust.
You know, they're such an essential piece of equipment, but they're so expensive, they drive me crazy, but anyway, okay, that's all I had. So I'll entertain a motion to oh, no, this is only information, excuse me. I'm going on to consent agenda. City Council meeting minutes of September 5th, 2023. Any questions or corrections? And if not, I will entertain a motion.
I will move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, moved by Council President Eater, seconded by Councilor Hofer to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Counselor Powell.
Aye.
Counselor Eater.
Aye.
Counselor Hopper. Aye. Counselor Astorga seems to be missing. We'll come back to him. Counselor Donahue is absent. Counselor Ott.
Hi,
Mayor Wall.
Aye.
And Counselor Astorga, he dropped off.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to unfinished business. Item 9A is vote amendment to prohibit parking in yards. And it's there for a discussion item, and our city manager has done some research on this item. So would you like to give us a report?
Sure. So I did some research. Actually, I put out a message to the city manager listserv statewide and asked them for reference in regards to any communities that had prohibited yard parking. And so two communities wrote back to me. One was from Lafayette, and then I got information from Jervis. And so I took a look at their code and pulled out the applicable reports and provided them for you on packet page 33. And I did an internet search as well, taking a look at code. I was able to find a code for parking of vehicles in Arlington, Texas. It was interesting. And then I simply printed a copy of our municipal code, our current code for parking prohibited, which is subsection 70.55, and located a specific location. Should council come up with a code that they would like to work on and move forward, that would be the most appropriate place to locate it within our municipal. And now it's for you to discuss, and I will be happy to take any direction that the council please fit. At the conclusion of the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
I'll make a comment in regards to what we heard from Mr. Hofer earlier. There are a few current places where I think this would be very applicable, and I wish Charlie was still in here. Sorry. Deputy Chief Hall. Yeah. I'm trying to remember his new title. Deputy Chief Hall was still in here. Because I do know that there was an attempt to work with the homeowners that fell upon somewhat deaf ears, it appears. And Deputy Chief Hall essentially didn't have the tools to do anything about it. So we had situations where neither of which were out of necessity. It was out of convenience, and we had no tool in place to allow them to do anything other than politely ask them. And so it was causing an issue for multiple neighbors. Again, I think I'll quote you as saying that code is a tool.
Sure.
The one thing, the other comment that I've heard about this is, what about Oktoberfest? I think that would be pretty simple to add language about length of time, no different than we have on the streets. My only question to Chief would be, how much does that add to enforcement? Because essentially you have a chalk time, and then you have when they've exceeded their code allowed time versus just a blanket prohibition upon it.
Well, actually, we can't chalk tires. It's in the Constitution. We can't mark tires.
Okay.
So we have to do it other ways.
Okay.
So either using photographic evidence or writing other ways.
Right. So anyway, so it still involves 2 visits versus a visit.
That's correct.
Okay. And the other thing too is honestly, I don't know how much code enforcement goes on during Oktoberfest.
So I'll be honest, not any.
So that's the other thing.
Yeah, because we don't have, the capacity. We're focused, as Bill Bischoff said during his testimony, this year was another record type year. I don't think they're willing to give up the numbers just as of yet, but I can tell you anecdotally that there was a whole heck of a lot of people here, and probably as many people as there was last year. And to be able to facilitate that somewhere between, we'll give it a wide range of numbers. So somewhere between 400 and 500,000 people in our communities, where people are parking at the far ends and are being shuttled in, and we've got shuttle buses coming in from Portland and Salem, and everywhere else. Yeah, we're spending more time on public safety, related to that. You know, we still have an officer who's designated to deal with the day-to-day stuff that happens out in Mount Angel. But we're also not going to be spending a lot of time on code enforcement, because really responding to emergent issues in our community is of the utmost, because if we were to do code enforcement block by block, I'm not sure how far we'd actually get.
So point being, Oktoberfest doesn't appear to be an issue with.
No, and you know why I asked that? Because I park on the street, because my driveway is puny, because I live in an old house. So I need to fix my garage door so I can actually park in the garage. But I'm the one that ends up parking in my own yard. That's why I had asked you. And just because people park all over the place. People park in other people's driveways, don't live there and that kind of thing, but no, I just park in my own yard during Oktoberfest, so.
Didn't this come about from some complaints?
Yes.
And were these complaints, I'll just, for better words, abandoned vehicles in yards, maybe broke down,
So
hoods up, all this kind of stuff going on?
no, so the one in particular, and I think this is what gave Deputy Chief Hall the issue. Yeah, we're talking about you. Is the fact that it wasn't abandoned, derelict, non-op. It was simply an extra car that isn't being used. And instead of street parking it or arranging, like, I know we have one in my neighborhood where they have a car that they never use. Actually, they have 2 cars that they never use. And so they would sit out on the street for months until Deputy Chief Hall spoke to them, and they shuffled it around. So now the car that they use all the time, they park on the street because it never sits there for more than 72 hours. And the ones that never move are in the driveway. Well, in this case, vehicle's not non-operational. It's operational. It's just they're storing it for months at a time out in the front yard. And that's where the complaints are coming from. And so again, this would be a tool so that when we do have issues, we have the ability to address those issues. Did I sum that up correctly as to the one vehicle that we were talking about? It's not necessarily a nuisance or non-operational, and we don't have a code that prevent operational vehicles from being stored in a yard.
There's different ways to look at any problem with regard to vehicles and where they're parked or for how long. We have that's one thing we look at. So we do have the parking ordinance, which is probably the easiest part to enforce. That has specific timeframes for how long a vehicle can be in one place. Then we have different ways we can decide if a vehicle is now considered abandoned on the streets. If it's in the driveway, it still has to be, it can't be missing parts, but it's not required to have insurance or registration. But if it's on the street, it is required. So, yeah, I mean, it is complicated, but I think in that circumstance, were we talking about a specific circumstance or just in general?
Yeah, we were talking about a recent complaint about a vehicle being stored in a side yard, but the vehicle itself was not off.
But we didn't talk about this one.
We did not. I spoke with the person who turned in the complaint. They relayed what they considered to be the conversation that was had.
Yeah.
Without putting on record of the jogging your memory.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You want me to talk about the specifics of that? No. Because it didn't rise to the level, it's not missing parts or anything like that. It's drivable, it's just sitting in a yard. But
not against the ordinance, as I understand it.
That's what I wanna change. So you have the tools, if there's habitual or problem.
But I was thinking what Victor said. People that have lots of cars, the people in the house have multiple vehicles, or they don't have. I mean, my little dinky driveway is behind my house, so I don't park in my driveway. I park on the street or in my yard during Oktoberfest. But people who have multiple cars at house and don't have a driveway, is that the problem? They're not parking in the driveway, they're just parking in their yard? Is that how I'm understanding that? Do they have a driveway?
The ones we're running into are people who have an excessive number of cars and they're storing them in their yard. It's not, they come and go every single day and there's 5 people in the house, and so there's 2 in the driveway and 2 in the yard, because I know there's one right over here on Markham that's that way. They've created an additional parking spot out of their front yard basically to accommodate that, but the car comes and goes and it's essentially part of the driveway at this point. The few that we're talking about are ones that have a car and it sits for months at a time, but because it's not abandoned, it's not missing parts or anything like that. We don't have the tool to address that issue when all the neighbors start complaining about it. Unless it gets infested with rodents, right?
Unless it becomes an attractant for rodents and other type of, unless it becomes an attractant for rodents and et cetera.
Mr. Mayor, I know this is a council discussion. You know,
I'm sure you can ask a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 questions. One, this is private property. So we're going to take private property rights away from people, telling them they can't have an operable vehicle in their yard, in the grass. That's one question I have. 2, I also have my Toyota being repaired. I have a credit card, someone's fixing it for me. Well, what happens to the person who's saving $10 a month a week to buy a part? Their car's inoperable for a month, maybe 2, as they save the money that they have to buy that part to fix the car. They would be in violation according to what might be suggested here. So, if you want to take away the property right of someone who can't afford to put down $10,000 worth of cement, you want to tell a person who's scraping along to fix their car, do that, you have 72 hours, you're 21 days, whatever that might be, you're going to Toyota Farm site or site. So, but these are just things that come to mind as I hear the discussion. I'm not saying negative, positive, it's just that's what comes to mind. What about the poor people trying to fix the car? What about the personal property rights of people who own the property?
I'll take it since I feel like this one's my battle.
I'd like to do the property rights one.
What's that?
I'd like to address the property right.
Oh, go ahead and I'll address the rest of it.
Okay. In our country, as you know, you're a licensed attorney still, I think. The property rights argument on zoning and code enforcement has been argued how many millions of times? So we have the right under our police powers to zone property, to place reasonable restrictions on property, and not allowing someone to park 10 cars in their yard is not taking away their property rights, in my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, I can tell you word from what the cultural was here, because you had a perfect answer.
Thank you. Okay.
I think that instilling a time portion on these as opposed to an all-out prohibition takes out a large number of people who are utilizing it as a necessity. So there's, hey, I have a third, for example, the one on Market, there's a 3rd vehicle and now there's a 3rd parking spot. That's just, it comes and goes, that kind of stuff. as opposed to this allows to get away from the storage. And as far as the obscure, what about this particular, you know, what if one person has this one issue? I can honestly say, having tried to work through cars that don't move for months with our local police department. Those obscure one-off type situations are handled very personally with the homeowner, even if it is at the frustration of the complainant. Did I say that right? We've had people in town who have been able to store cars on the street for, I'm not exaggerating, what feels like years. But it's because they had those hardships. And again, this is a tool to allow an ongoing issue to be addressed. And obviously we aren't the only city with this issue, or otherwise Mark would not be able to find numerous references from other cities to do this.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to add this, just a reminder to council. Our code is set up so that enforcement does not happen overnight. There is no punitive action taken against anybody immediately. There is a necessity for a warning to occur. We will often write the person a letter. And as a matter of last resort, and after using usually an enormous amount of discretion, do we resort to even writing a citation, which then takes at best 2 months to go before our municipal judge. All while the ordinance violation is still occurring. And for the first, time for that person to actually be arraigned in front of the municipal judge, she will then often continue the case and give the person a significant amount of time and opportunity to fix whatever the issue happens to be. So just a reminder that punitive action does not happen immediate, and we often use a significant amount of discretion while we're working with community members to finally come in compliance with whatever code we happen to be looking at.
Chief Daniel actually have discretion and much more patience than I would have. So kudos to you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the council discussion, so. Does anyone else have any other comments, questions? Anything?
Well, right now, this is all, the way this is written is complaint driven.
Well, no, it doesn't.
I mean, you guys can,
None of our code is complaint driven. So we receive complaints all the time. We love to get complaints from community members. Because it helps us build our case with the municipal judge. But we can take action based on what we've seen. Nothing has.
but with the way our code is written now, what kind of action?
We can.
This is very vague, if you ask me, compared to these other cities.
You're right. So, but we can, if we have a code that we find a violation for.
Right.
We can stop and initiate an investigation and an inquiry and begin the process of doing code enforcement with that particular violation.
Well, I don't know if we need a thumbs up or a head nod, but I would be in support of staff bringing a code update in front of the council.
Okay, so looking at the codes that are here, particularly with Lafayette and Jervis, are there anything that you see here that you would not want included in our new code? Or a potential, code that I would present to council?
How much of our code is gonna go away?
None.
No, it's just gonna be an addition.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Is there interest in including a time frame such as the parking? So that way if somebody is actively coming and going from work every day or every couple days, that kind of stuff, I mean, theoretically, they would still be able to park in their yard. Versus this is a pretty much all out prohibition upon it. Although that being said, the discretion there is if you do show up or if there's a complaint, you can say, this person's going to work every day and their car is gone during the day, it's only in the yard at night, and that discretion, that gray area comes in, right?
Well, it's discretion, you know, there's only a few cases in Oregon law where we don't have discretion to do anything, so, you know, whether we continue with the investigation, what, you know, it very well could be a very frustrating case for the complainant. Like you mentioned.
Advantage I see of taking Lafayette or Jervis, verbatim is I would this is maybe a not safe assumption, but I would assume it's already been vetted through legal counsel prior to them enacting it as well. So it would be less likely to run into any. I should say it has likely been vetted.
Yeah, you never know.
Do we have a lot of these complaints around town? I could just guess that I could probably guess a handful of houses just driving around town, but active complaints about houses?
We have a handful, maybe less than a handful,
Less than a handful,
probably.
not like a couple dozen. I would,
No, I mean, if you drive around town, I'm sure you could find them, right? And this is not a municipal police department that does code enforcement with a heavy hand. Because when that happens, you have lines out the door, I think, and people upset at the council, and then upset at me because of what we're doing. That's all part of that discretion, trying to allow the community to get along and work as best as possible. But there are a couple locations in the city where people are parking an excessive amount of vehicles
unused.
and are much like we've had the conversation a couple of years ago when we changed parking on the street. They like to at times game the system and you know, start moving cars around and doing all kinds of things. But we have a couple places in town that use their property for parking lots. And their neighbors are upset with that.
It's okay as long as it's not in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's
exactly true.
exactly.
Right, that are in my neighborhood, I'm still fighting it, right?
Driving by your house tomorrow, Joe.
In the Lafayette code, the second line says the side and rear yard areas may be used for parking. The Jervis one, second sentence says the side and rear yards areas may not be used for parking. Jervis one is even more restrictive. Right, am I reading that correctly?
Yeah. So of this handful, are there some that actually park in their front yard?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if they didn't park in their front yard, where would they have to park? Can they put them on the street?
But in most cases, they still could, yes, they just choose to. Yard, side yard.
Why don't we bring something back that we can actually look at to adopt and we'll have that discussion and a vote.
Okay.
My last comment would be, I think if you went with the Jervis where the side and rear yards would not be used, I think it'd be reasonable to say unless screened from street view or something like that, because obviously if you've got a fully fenced backyard, we're not gonna tell you you can't have a car back there. Nobody, you know, nobody can see it, you're working on it, you're doing whatever, that also provides another opportunity for a place for you to put that car instead of your front yard, so. Maybe that's an option to help add opportunities for homeowners.
Staff will put together a draft.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the discussion. Our next item is 9D, Vector Truck Lease Agreement. And this is an action item.
Okay, so in June of 2023, the city council adopted the 23-24 budget, which included a lease option for a new combination Vector trucks. The purchase of a new combination truck will allow Public Works to perform the necessary tasks quickly and effectively in a timely manner. The machine will be used for various tasks such as hydro excavating to expose water, sewer, and storm lines for repairs and maintenance issues. Hydro excavating is essential due to the low hazard it poses around underground utilities. It will also be used for annual sewer and storm line maintenance cleaning and removal of plugs and backups of main lines. The lifespan of a new combination truck is roughly 15 to 20 years, with a decline in performance around 10 years. After 10 years, the vehicle will most likely need some repairs. The truck and chassis by itself will have a 12-month warranty. The water tanks will have a 10-year warranty against leakage and corrosion. The Vector rotor pump will have a 2-year warranty. The truck will have its annual checkup and preventative maintenance completed by own equipment. The recommendation is Public Works recommends the lease of combination Vector truck in the amount of $496,433.48, with an annual payment of $75,600.43 for 8 years. I did put an alternative motion down to make the necessary repairs to our current Vector, but at this point, I have no clue what that's going to cost, or I have to take it in again because I stopped them at that point at that $19,000.
What year is this truck?
This is, oh gosh, I think it's early 80s.
The one we have.
Yeah,
Early 80s?
yeah. When we bought it from
Oh, the old truck's early 80s,
the whole,
the new one,
oh, I'm sorry, it's a
Yeah.
23.
23, yeah.
Or 24 when it gets built.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not built yet.
Yeah,
So it's brand new.
correct.
Okay. And when the lease is up, we own it?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lease to own.
Yeah,
And in theory, it will last us 45.
well, that's why I put this in here, so, the trucks, last roughly 15 to 20 years. And, so around the 10-year span, that's when we start putting a little bit of money into it for preventative maintenance, so.
But we're still using our truck
From the 80s.
from the 80s, so, you know, 30 plus years on the back truck.
Bonus.
And it saw hard use from the state of Oregon for, you know, way before we ever got a hold of it. So, now we've just now put $19,000 into it to keep it safe for our folks to operate. Because previously, as Alan hasn't told you, when they were using it just before they stopped using it, it was throwing rocks and debris outside of the vehicle. Potentially striking our members of the public, but our own city works, you know, public works crews. So the $19,000 we spent to do the repairs on the back truck is $19,000 less we would have to worry about a workman's compensation injury and potential life-changing accident. So,
Property damage.
What's the residual value on the old one?
Well, I don't know, we've taken a lot of stuff to the auction, we've got good money. I wouldn't be surprised if we get 35,000. But I don't know. I mean, nobody might want, I mean, if nobody wants it, then it's not gonna go for anything.
But we have had, we should work on that, so
We have, yeah.
but it's also gonna take a period of time for this new truck to be acquired, chassis and then for it to be built. So we're gonna be operating our current dock truck for how long before this truck?
At least a year, already here.
So when you say it's gonna have annual checkup and preventive maintenance completed by owned equipment, is that included in this lease cost?
No. No,
So then the question is, so the 8-year lease, we do own it when we're done,
yes,
okay? Is that the only way to procure them, is to lease them?
Yeah, that's the only way that we can finance anything, really. That's why we've leased patrol cars. Because that's the only way that we can legally finance them,
Okay,
is through a lease program.
This is almost $500,000 just to buy outright, correct?
yeah, I cannot afford to just pay that up front.
understood.
The only possible way for Public Works to get this vehicle would be through a lease.
Okay. I just wanna make sure at the end, we still had a truck. It wasn't
Oh,
a
yeah.
wasn't basically a 5-year rental or 8-year rental, $500,000.
It's leased.
Okay,
But it's an item that will visit us at a budget every year. And it won't go away, so, yeah. Yeah,
And we won't make payments until we actually get it.
yeah.
That's correct.
And we shouldn't have any $19,000 repairs for a few years.
That's plastic.
That would-
Yeah.
I got a question, because in my line of business, I very seldom buy anything new. I let somebody else take the edge off, but you guys looked into something a few years old or only brand new?
Well, I wouldn't say I've looked into anything a few years old. Everything I find out there is old that's used. And they're going for $100,000, through dealerships. At least that's the minimum, $100,000. And we got this through the state surplus, so we got it, their current truck, we got it fairly cheap, it was like $20,000. And then we put in a bunch of money too, once we bought it.
Any other questions? I'm not,
No.
if not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Councilor Storer is ready to make a motion.
Through the purchase of the back truck for Public Works Group.
I'll make the motion. I move to authorize city manager Mark Daniel to sign the lease of the 21I combination single engine sewer cleaner with positive displacement vacuum factor truck.
A second.
I have a motion by Councilor Fowle, seconded by Councilor Ott, to authorize city manager to sign a lease of the Beckman. Roll call, please.
Counselor Hop,
Aye.
Counselor Powell,
Aye.
Counselor Eater,
Aye.
Counselor Hooper. Aye. Counselor Astorga,
Aye.
Counselor Donahue is absent. Mayor Wall.
Aye. Okay. Get that order in. Okay. The next item, we move on to business. Item 10A is Youth Advisory Council application by Sailor Hill. And I'll start with the comment. Taylor, I thought you did a nice job on your application. Thank you for Other than that, I have no other comments. Anyone have any questions or comments? Any, Nate?
I think council also received a letter,
Yes,
here on your,
I see Michael Smith.
from Michael Smith.
And it says she's a great point guard. Oh, no, wait. It's a very nice letter. Okay. I'll entertain a motion then.
I move to appoint Sailor Hill to the Youth Advisory Council for a partial one-year term expiring on June 1st, 2024.
Second. Here you have a motion by Councilor Ott, a second by Councilor Hofer. To appoint Sailor Hill as our student counselor. Roll call, please.
Counselor Donahue, is absent. Counselor Ott,
Aye.
Counselor Fowler,
I,
Counselor Eater,
Aye.
Counselor Hofer.
Aye.
Counselor Astorga,
Aye.
Mayor Wall.
Aye. Okay. Next item is supplemental budget. A public hearing. And I'm going to open the public hearing on the supplemental budget. And I'll have staff give us an explanation and then we'll ask for any comments. So,
So we've come up against some things since we made our budget. One of them is some things in public works that they use their allocated fund for in the general, their allocated department in the general fund. Where we pull money from the enterprise funds to fund that. So any changes in that department affects those enterprise funds, and so it's kind of a domino effect. So that would be the cell phone and the building maintenance, and then the vehicle equipment repairs, which we just mentioned about the back truck. So we wanted to make those changes, request to make those changes, and then with the South Main Waterline project that you guys approved, we needed to make some increases in that to be able to pay the contractor.
any questions of staff? Is there any comments from the public? On our supplemental budget? Hearing none. I will close the public hearing. And ask for council action on resolution number 1579.
I move to approve the attached resolution 1579 authorizing appropriations amending the fiscal year 2023-24 budget of the city of Marine.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Hofer, second by Councilor Ott to approve resolution 1579. Roll call, please.
Counselor Astorga,
Aye.
Counselor Donahue, absent. Counselor Ott,
Aye.
Counselor Fowler,
I,
Counselor Eater,
Aye.
Counselor Hofer,
Aye.
Mayor Wall.
Aye. Okay. City managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll run through my list very, very quickly. The West Markham Sanitary Sewer Trunk Line Project is nearing completion. We have one manhole left to set, then some paving and some minor cleanup. So, they were out, digging in West Markham today to set the new manhole. Anyway, so we're very close to completing. Okay, last meeting I mentioned some issues that we'd have with Comcast. and working with the city attorney's office and, other means. The previously mentioned issue with Comcast, we discovered that what we thought to be a violation of the franchise agreement was not. So you will see them, actually, starting to install their wares once again. If you'd like a specific blow-by-blow explanation of that, I would be happy to meet with you individually to explain what the situation was further. I've been working with additional code in regards to operation of ATVs, UTVs, and golf carts within the city. That would include gators. This kind of originates out of Oktoberfest, but not completely, because our own public works folks own gators that they operate within the confines of the city, which are not lawful to be operated on our streets unless we have code that allows them to operate on the streets. Our fire department has a vehicle which is not lawful to be operated unless we have code. And should the police department sometime in the future ever get something like that, it'd be nice if we actually had a law in place that allowed us to do that. We've made certain exemptions already for Oktoberfest, back to that whole discretion conversation. Oktoberfest has been real good with working with us about designating certain ATVs, UTVs, and golf type vehicles by the use of Oktoberfest stickers and numbers and that type of thing. So this basically is an ordinance that will encapsulate all that, which would include Oktoberfest, our law enforcement, our fire, and then public works to be able to operate those types of vehicles on our streets and in the city legally. So I hope to be able to bring you a sample code, something for you to consider at the next meeting. You might have remembered that I've been nominated by the governor to be appointed to the Oregon State Board on Public Safety Standards and Training. My confirmation hearing was on September 27th in front of the Senate Rules Committee. I was confirmed by the Senate on this past Friday, and my term on that board begins October 5th and lasts until June of 2026. Very excited about that. The last thing that I am also very excited about is on Wednesday morning, I am headed out of state to attend a vow renewal ceremony for my daughter. I will send out an email prior to my departure on who and what will be in charge while I'm gone. I anticipate being gone for just about a week, and then I should be back. That's all I have.
Ask a question on the golf carts and the gators and the UTVs.
Sure.
So. And I know there's rules out there, I don't know what they are, but I know we have an individual currently utilizing a golf cart. Who is very concerned about any pending code enforcement against the use of recently purchased golf cart. But my understanding is like I looked into making my UTV quote unquote street legal. And I think in Oregon, you just flat can't.
You can't, that's correct.
But on smaller engine, slower vehicles with the appropriate placards, signals, that kind of stuff, they can be street legal. So this would not, it would have no effect on those people already using the golf cart with turn signals and slow moving placards.
If a person met the conditions under ORS and our code, then there's not an issue. And the problem is, however, with all these other vehicles, you know, I can't tell you how many times during Oktoberfest I will take a drive through the community. Somebody will say, is it okay if I just go ahead and jump in my side-by-side and come down to the festival? It's like, no, you can't. Well, but when I see Oktoberfest and the police are driving them and this person and that person and these people. And it's the same argument that I got from that guy.
I'll on the record tell everybody that until a couple of years ago, we utilized gators and side-by-side for private transportation to and from the Oktoberfest all day long. And I think that's probably where some of this came from, is because I had a 4-seat side-by-side that'll do 70 miles. And I was driving it on the streets because it is a lot more convenient. So that was my question, is so right now. We're only taking what's already prohibited. And making it not prohibited for Oktoberfest, first responders, city employees, those kinds of stuff.
Right,
Okay, we're not creating any additional prohibitions at this time.
no,
Okay, that was my question. There's someone in town very concerned that there's gonna be code against it.
there might be, it's up to the council, it's not up to me.
Understood.
So is he driving around town?
Yeah.
From work.
To and from work.
I'll see him tomorrow morning at 7:30.
You are looking a little longer, right?
At least as far up as, Elm Street,
Taking kids to school.
The person driving it currently believes that he meets the letter of the law, and I am not gonna speak that he does or does not, but. He purchased it under that,
That's why we have these guys.
exactly. So that was my only question, and because. The back half of that question was, is if we were going to not make it prohibited. But it sounds like it's only gonna be for those select uses. Cause I still have a 14.7 set sitting in my garage that. I'm wondering if that would become suddenly legal for use within the city of Mount Angel, and unfortunately, that's not the case.
unless you're a police officer, a firefighter, a public works member, or otherwise designated by Oktoberfest.
Got it.
And then the other challenge is, I'm not sure that low speed vehicles, and I'd have to dive into the ORS. But I'm not sure that low speed vehicles can actually be operated technically across state highway. And we have a state highway running through the middle of town. So that's a problem. If you look in Woodburn where, low speed vehicles, people operate golf carts and stuff all the time. They don't cross the road, they have tunnels underneath the state highway.
Oh, that's right.
That's how we can get rid of the bump of the railroad tracks. We need a tunnel.
Oh, God.
You're right. Counselor.
Yes, dig a hole.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Oh, I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully you got something more.
They've been done.
Okay, now we have council reports, and I'll start with Councilor Gopher.
Can you give us a short explanation of the overhead lines and stuff with the new franchise agreements?
Yeah, the new franchise agreement allows it. There was somebody made a mistake. And they allowed one word. And the word is above. So without getting into lots of specific, spending a lot more money, I think I know what the issue is. But what's done is done, the agreement is signed. So
I would imagine that, if is that wording different than the franchise agreement with like Direct Link? Because maybe they're just.
I don't even know what the franchise agreement with Direct Link looks like.
There's much older too, before we implemented the new ordinance.
Probably.
Where I think, and I guess I'll just go into it a little bit. So I would suspect, and I wasn't directly involved in the creation of this and all that, so I really didn't have a lot of focus on it, but from what I can pull apart in this deal, and trust me, I have pulled it apart. But somebody didn't look at our public works design standards and didn't take them into consideration. Because our public works design standards say new utilities will go underground. But the franchise agreement allows it to be mounted above. And
They're just kind of picking and choosing then. Because they are doing they did some boring.
they're mounting it, or they're putting it however they choose.
Okay.
And there is a paragraph in the franchise agreement that gives a whole litany of ways to do it. And the one word right in the middle of the paragraph is above. And I've been on the receiving end of our attorneys, and I've also been on the receiving end of their attorneys. And I'll be honest with you, have read what Comcast attorneys have said. And I have to agree with them. But we've learned quite a lesson here. And so we will do much, there's a number of things that we've learned about through this process. So. Fortunately, at this moment, it hasn't cost us any money other than talk with our attorneys. All right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it, no?
Counselor Fowler? Oh, excuse me, Counselor Stora. Do you have any reports for council?
None at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Counselor Fowler, it's your turn now.
Just one thing, if we're still moving forward with getting quotes to potentially look at the repaving at the railroad tracks.
We are, in fact, during Oktoberfest, I got information about the exact person I need to talk to with the railroad.
Okay.
So we're still working on getting quotes and plan on having a conversation with the railroad person.
Could it be so hopeful as to maybe see that at the November meeting?
Let's see what you do.
I can try.
So we have concern this month.
Is that it?
Yep.
Counselor Ott?
Have a short list of things. And we talk about the yellow curbs again. The distance on which they're gonna get painted and when they are, that somebody asked me about that specifically on Taylor, Maine again. Even though the vehicle that got damaged in the recent wreck there is not there anymore. The paint is old. And, you know, it was right before Oktoberfest, so we had talked about it. And during Oktoberfest, it gets extra tricky, like even like we've talked about the Y section of Church and College because of the weird curving. There's places that I feel like there's a lot of them that maybe should be looked at. There's not always, for example, in front of my house, there's not always cars parked all the way up to the corner, but during Oktoberfest there are. And sometimes during church events there are as well. But if there's a car parked there and there's a car like halfway in the yellow curb on the church side, it's really hard to see people coming up and down the street. So yeah, I just wanted to know if there was like a plan or what kind of a schedule the yellow curb painting.
You want to talk about when you paint curves and then we go through a process prior to that.
Yeah, so, we usually paint curves, you know, when late spring, early summer, just because of the weather
Right.
and the heat, it dries it. Right now, it's pretty sporadic with the rain.
Right.
We winterize the machine, and so then the paint doesn't clog the machine and you don't have to tear it apart and rebuild it. So the earliest we could paint would be spring.
Yeah.
We'll put a list together for new spots.
For
new
some
areas.
that really need to be done or assessed or whatever. Okay.
And as far as the distance, it comes right out of the Oregon Revised Statute.
It's like a car length or something.
I can't remember, it's like 20, 30 feet or something like that.
I have it written down, or Charlie.
It depends on what features are present. So I believe it's 20 feet from a crosswalk.
From a crosswalk. Yeah.
But, I mean, there's sometimes we're just practically speaking, that's gonna be a really long distance.
Right.
And it's, to me, I mean, any city that you go to, you could find exceptions to that. Because we have to make a judgment call on certain aspects that we don't want everything to be painted yellow because there's certain streets, but it's gonna be a lot of it. So it's not gonna interfere with traffic.
Right.
Or pedestrians or ability. Kind of look at that. Those are kind of minimum numbers. Fire hydrants are another one. But. Yeah, so ORS does outline that.
Okay.
Does that line up with what I'm reading in our parking code of 25 feet from intersection, 30 feet from signal or traffic control, 10 feet of hydrant? I assume that all
Yep,
lines up
there you go.
pretty much spot on with the ORS.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like-
We have a cheat sheet this month.
And, you know, as I'm sure you're all aware, there are plenty of places in town where there's been parking clear up to the actual intersection,
Or the crowd,
wherever the stop sign.
yeah, or the crowd spot.
Yeah, and so
where the kids
we're-
are crowding.
We're definitely trying to make it work. We've kind of had to find a happy medium in a couple of places. To not eliminate somebody's ability to park in front of their house. So,
Right,
you know, so we went back and forth on Lincoln to, wanted to create a site distance. You know, a better place.
Yeah.
But no, it's not 3 years ago.
yeah, Lincoln was one of those.
Council
Have a couple
President,
more. Wait,
oh,
have
you done?
one. Cell service during Oktoberfest, can we talk about that? Yes. I was, yeah, I don't love cell service during Oktoberfest, it's not pretty. But when I heard, from a first responder in town who lives here, but works in another city, and their first responder phone wasn't working. I feel like that's kind of a not great situation. Is there a way to get like an extra cell tower of sorts in town, and would it be our deal or would it be Oktoberfest?
Well, I've inquired with carriers. And, there really hasn't been very much desire.
To bring in
Um,
something extra,
mhm.
yeah,
Look, my last discussion was actually with the FBI. The FBI was working on bringing in a FirstNet tower and locating them in town. But they made a decision kind of at the 11th hour that they really didn't need to. They thought that the cell tower was sufficient for FirstNet.
Mhm.
So they made that call. Nothing is for free.
right,
And you know, that people talk about this all the time, and when more and more people come to Oktoberfest, it continues to be a bigger problem. You know, I can only speak what I know, and that's, you know, at the University of Oregon football games, there's over 50,000 people there in the stadium. But if you sit in Autzen Stadium and you look around, at the top of each stairwell is a pole. And that pole is actually a cell tower. So they have paid for their sponsorships or whatever. You count the poles that go around all the stairwells at Autzen Stadium, so that they can support cell service, everybody's Instagram, all that kind of stuff.
right,
They're paying for it. And you know, this year, Oktoberfest was trying to get into a contract with Comcast. But then I learned at the last minute, which may be incorrect, but I learned at the last minute, of course, that kind of got carried up in what we were trying to do with Comcast, and I tried to make it, I even came up with an agreement so they could do what they wanted to do, which is put Wi-Fi service down Main Street, but for the vendors, not for everybody else. And, but the plan that I learned about at the very end was that they were just basically going to be going into the current pipeline because they don't have service here yet. So they were going to be tapping into direct link in order to provide Wi-Fi service, but the pipe is only just, you know, so big.
and that would work.
That probably wouldn't work very well. Who knows? It happened. But it's, big money and, it's really not our thing. You know, it's up to the cell carriers.
Yeah.
And their customers. To make that call.
Do you have something to add to that, Joe?
Oh, I agree 100%. I was thinking about it all Oktoberfest, and it was a safety concern of mine that if I wasn't at Wi-Fi, I had no reception with Verizon. And so when I was down here trying to get in contact with my wife, that kind of stuff, you just flat couldn't do it. Unless you're in a garden. And then there's some Wi-Fi that you can latch on to as the public. And so even if there was some kind of partnership, again, maybe with Direct Link upgrading their pipes through their franchise agreement right now, and Comcast upgrading their quote unquote pipes. Maybe there's a way that we can get a partnership through, even if it was some of the businesses in the chamber and Oktoberfest to put routers in a handful of the businesses along Main Street so that you could get on the public Wi-Fi that Oktoberfest provides.
But once again, it's, yeah, who knows?
So, but I think it's an issue.
Each of the carriers has got a public safety preemption. So FirstNet, Verizon, and T-Mobile, all three have got public safety preemption. So if you have a public safety phone, technically, when the system is overloading or overloaded, then your signal will preempt someone else. So your call should go through. I didn't have any problems with my Verizon phone. I didn't have any problems with my T-Mobile phone. And I don't think we had any problems with we have FirstNet cards in our MVPs, so I'm not aware that we had any problems with those during October. But I know that members of the public did. The public safety preemption is there, and I know what it works. And I can't speak to the first responder if you're talking.
Yeah, I might have them come have a chat with you.
Happy to.
I know, I was gonna say, I don't know what their phone
Yeah, they might
Difference
not have a public safety preemption phone.
in there, yeah, that's a good question, I don't know that answer. And another thing that I had was, I had 3 different people tell me that our Mount Angel cops during Oktoberfest, and I asked if they were sure they were Mount Angel cops and not just any of the cops. They were super kind and friendly. They had either had a chat with one of the officers, and I know one of them was Officer Hall, and Sergeant Hall. And I know that one of them was Lopez, and I thought it was really sweet that they were like, your officers are so nice. They're not just the security presence. They're having a little chat with some kid about their ice cream cone, or having a chat with random seniors that were sitting on a bench that were from out of town and asking questions about the building that was across the street. I thought that was really sweet, so I wanted to make mention of that. And somebody in Silverton had asked me if, and I told them to go to their city council, but the road between here and Silverton is county, state, both,
State highway.
it's a state highway. How do you get a bike lane on a state highway? Because there's somebody in town who's regularly on that highway, and I cringe every time I drive by them, but there's lots of people that I see that ride bikes back and forth, whether that's their only means of transportation or it's just their recreational time of the day. Because the road seems like it's wide enough and there's space on the sides. I don't know if that's ever something that comes up, or how to go about having that mentioned somewhere. If anybody had an idea.
By contacting ODOT.
Okay.
And perhaps your legislature, legislative representatives for this area, who then could potentially earmark or push a project one way or another, perhaps look at some grant funding, those types of things. So.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, I say, welcome, Sailor. Super happy to have you. And Mayor Wall and I are going to the League of Oregon Cities conference next week, and I'm looking forward to that because it's a very fun networking, learning experience. I learned a lot last year, so I'm glad to be going again. That's all I had.
Okay, I'm good.
You good? Okay, I'm not. Okay, we're gonna do mayor's. And I only have a couple of things. First is, Counselor Fuller from Kaiser is the one that coordinated the work party that we had just before Oktoberfest. And they rebuilt a good part of the gazebo, so it was safe. And none of us fell through the floor during opening ceremonies. That was good. And then they did work in Ebner Park and what other park? Is that it? Ebner. So they did a lot of work. There were about 200 of them. So I thought as a minor little gesture, we should all sign a letter and send them a letter thanking them for their work. And I'm going to read the letter and then I'm going to ask you to sign it before you leave here. It's to Mr. Fuller. Earlier this year, you had reached out to Mount Angel City staff and Mayor Wall in regards to performing it should be performing, not preforming, but that's okay. A service project for the city of Mount Angel. After chatting with you further and determining the type of project that the church could do, city staff came up with several ideas, but landed on two. First was to rebuild the steps and also replace parts of the flooring at the city's gazebo. The second was to beautify the city's largest park, Ebner Park, by spreading bark chips and by also completing other maintenance tasks. On September 9th, the city of Mount Angel received more than 200 volunteers at Ebner Park and 10 or so at the gazebo next to the police department. As soon as the volunteers arrived at the park, they got to work. They brought equipment and a lot of determination. They were able to complete all the tasks at the park within 2 hours. Park is beautiful. The volunteers made such short work of something that would have taken weeks for city staff to accomplish. Over at the gazebo, the crew that came also got to work straight away. This must have been a hand-picked group of expert carpenters, as their work was superb. In fact, if it were not for the work that you and your volunteers completed, the annual Oktoberfest would not have been allowed to use the gazebo due to safety issues that your volunteers repaired. City of Mount Angel cannot thank you and all the volunteers enough. City was very fortunate to have been selected as the recipient for your state day of service. We would like to express our most sincere appreciation and thanks. And we're all going to sign this, if you will. So I'm going to start it that way. Councilor Astoria, if you could come in and sign that sometime when you get a chance, we'd appreciate it. We'll have to reach out to Councilor Donahue.
Yeah, I'll be by hopefully tomorrow to sign it.
Thank you very much.
Anthony, but not Joseph.
Huh?
Anthony, but not Joseph.
All right. That's all I have. So unless anyone else has something that's burning issue, speak up. We're adjourned.